In 1919, a defeated German army was presented with peace terms by the victorious powers in World War I. Germany wasn't invited to negotiate and it was given a stark choice, which was basically sign or be invaded. The result? They signed, which was the Treaty of Versailles. From the start, however, the Treaty of Versailles caused anger, hate, revolution across the German society. It was not well received. Versailles was called a dictated peace. The German Empire from 1914 was split up. The military was carved to the bone. Huge reparations were demanded by the Allied powers. The treaty caused turmoil from what was the new, highly troubled Weimar Republic that it was called. The economic fallout of the war, and particularly in Germany, was huge. The Allied powers required reparations in the billions of dollars from Germany for the damage that had been caused. Germany's economy was on the verge of collapse. Their populace was unhappy. They felt betrayed. They felt angry. They felt repressed. The people had felt that the German army was stabbed in the back because really they had won, but the political officers sold them out. It caused a small army full of monarchist officers, basically a state within a state, that remained hostile to the new democratic Weimar Republic. That also left many ex-soldiers unemployed and ready to join the warring on that was happening on the streets. The result of that was it gave right-wing nationalists fertile ground to prosper in Germany. And those nationalists, aka the National Socialist or the National Socialist Worker Party, gave rise to becoming the powerful party in Europe. What was the National Socialist Party? The Nazis. What was the result of the Nazis? Essentially, the Treaty of Versailles gave rise to Adolf Hitler. That is a story of unintended consequences from small decisions. The proverbial spike the ball by the Allied powers gave way to one of the greatest bad guys ever known to mankind, Adolf Hitler. So, that being said, this is my story of a staggering tale of heartbreaking unintended consequences, aka tyranny of small decisions, aka 10 small mistakes that can lead to much larger problems in your divorce. My name is Jeff Diamond. I am a trial and divorce attorney, and this is my story of 10 small mistakes that can lead to much larger problems in your divorce. Number 1, don't be unprepared. When you're coaching people for what to do for their divorce, one of the most common mistakes is that they come in unprepared. They don't have any idea what's in their estate. They don't even know what they're looking for. They haven't spent the time searching for it, and now the lawyer has to do it, and they have to do it at a much more significant rate. The problem is, if they don't know what's there, how are we supposed to find it? And it makes it 10 times easier for another party in a divorce, to hide money. If you don't know where the accounts are, if you don't know where the businesses are or how the businesses are structured, there are easy ways to do that. But number 1 is listen. Spend a little bit of time hunting, looking, seeing what you can find before you come in, because the little clues are the things that can give us the big information. Even basic bank statements, I can subpoena records. Businesses, I can find out information from the state, and then I know what to ask for. Even if they know the names of businesses, the names of ventures, the names of properties, we can go out and we can find those records. If we know where the bank accounts are, the brokerage accounts are, we can look for where the transfers are, and all of those accounts show where money goes, where it comes in from, where it goes out to. The better work you do going into the divorce, the better ability we have to determine what the estate looks like. So start there. Number 2, don't believe the hype. Yes, this is not a Public Enemy song, but the axiom is still true. Don't believe the hype. So what do I mean by hype? When you are coaching your people, it is important to understand that lawyers are big on hype, and that is usually not beneficial. Overselling is almost always that, overselling. So when you're coaching your people and they have to go find their lawyers, if that lawyer is telling them all of the bravado about what we can do to your husband, we can do this to him, we can do that to him, we can get him thrown in jail, we can have him sanctioned, we can publicly behead him or spank him in the court, we'll tear him apart. It all sounds like overselling because it probably is. The reality is the divorce courts don't give you that many remedies, most of the time. And they're not going to give you all the remedies that you're looking for. And the simple fact is they want you to resolve things. They don't want you to fight over things. So when your lawyer is selling the great fight that you're going to have, they are probably overselling it. If they're not tempering that information with what the pragmatic effects are of all of this and what realistically can be done, then again, probably overselling. But it doesn't just stop there. The overselling can also happen with respect to the opposing party's lawyer. I've had more than one occasion where somebody came in and had very, very bad divorces that came in midstream, they came in late, or they came in afterwards, and we had additional litigation that we had to file. Why? Because they got torn apart by the opposing counsel. Why? Because they didn't look for the right lawyer. They looked for the lawyer who was full of bravado about how much they were going to kill and crush and maim the other lawyer, how the other lawyer is so unethical and they do battle with them all the time and they can't wait to do a battle with them and they're just going to kill them and crush them. And it all sounds great and it feeds what you want to hear, because you're already upset about the fact that you're getting a divorce to begin with, but you miss the big picture. For example, that lawyer happens to be your husband's lawyer's best friend. And we've seen the photos of them riding on his private plane together. When you're hearing hype, you're probably hearing hype. When the hype is significant enough and you're not getting the pragmatic side of it, that's probably a bad sign. The consequences of that can be significant. In one case, we had a doctor that was the opposing party whose conduct was so bad, his violence had gotten so bad that the judge actually ordered that the father could have no contact with the children or the wife because of the significance, because of the violence that was, the propensity for the violence that was there, and the threats had been made. So he ordered that the father could have no access to the wife or the children. The new lawyer comes in. Wife switches to the lawyer who's full of bravado about the unethical nature and how he can't wait to kick the other lawyer's ass and blah, blah, blah. And he does it all the time. Best friends, literally best friends. 5 days later, that whole deal that the judge had done got undone because of a deal between the buddies. And, hey, man, you got to give me something. Guess what? All that deal got undone. The consequences of that were massive. The violence escalated. The threats escalated, which ultimately resulted in the woman actually having to flee for her life, and all because she believed this ridiculous story about how he was going to kill, crush, and maim, and how much he hated the other lawyer. Overselling is overselling, and it's usually overselling. Number 3, don't check your common sense at the door. If it sounds wrong, it probably is. Here's a great story about that. I represented a woman whose husband owned 2 car dealerships. I came in late in the game after her case had gotten pretty well screwed up. What was the issue? The business made a lot of revenue, but it didn't make a lot of profit. Husband brought in a new guy. He helped turn the business profitable. He wanted to keep him, so what did he do? He sold a piece of the business to this guy to keep him, but he massively undersold it. The big problem associated with that was, by doing that, it diluted the husband and wife's community interest from a majority interest in the business to a minority interest in the business. Her lawyer convinced her that she had no alternative but to sue the new business partner because they had to recapture that stock. Not true. We have to make that stock subject to the jurisdiction of the court. Not true. They simply could have filed a tort claim against the husband for damaging the community interest in the business. Well, the problem there? The buy-sell agreement with the new partner and the business had an arbitration clause in it. That meant the arbitration had to start now, and the rest of the divorce couldn't continue until the arbitration was done, which put the entire divorce on hold. We can't get out of it. We have to file an appeal. There's no option. Also not true. Talked her into what became a $100,000 appeal to try to undo the damage that was done from this completely predictable decision. This is about the time that I came in after the appeal had already been lost and said, well, this is easy enough, guys. All we have to do is dismiss the arbitration. The third party's lawyer will be happy to give us a tolling agreement, preserving any claims that we may have under a statute of limitations to let him out of the case, which we did, which stopped the arbitration, which allowed us to reinstitute the divorce, assert the tort claim against the husband, and resolve all of the same problems. What did she have? $100,000 attorney's fees wasted and a year delay that divorce was on hold. All the time, what she told me is, it just didn't sound right to me. If it didn't sound right, that's probably because it's not right. Number 4, don't give loyalty where loyalty is not deserved. It's your lawyer, not your dad, not your mom, not your grandma, not your boyfriend. I can't tell you how many times I've had people stay in cases too long because they felt loyalty to the lawyer and they felt bad about firing the lawyer. The fact is, guys, the more ineffective job your lawyer does, the more damage they can do to your case long term. And when you're coaching your people, you have to understand that that damage is significantly consequential. And sometimes, if it's long enough, if it's bad enough, if it goes on long enough, it cannot be undone. Many times when I come in midstream, I can fix some of those problems. But if the problems go on too long, I can't. But it's not just the damage that's done to the case from that perspective. It can also cause damage to your case in the sense that the judge can become upset with your case. The judge can be upset with the positions that your ineffective lawyer has been taking, which can prejudice your side as well. That can put you behind the 8 ball. I literally had a case that I came in 2 years and 3/4 in. That's right, 2 years, 9 months into the case. And the problems were so consequential that 27 days before trial, when I got hired, the judge wouldn't agree to give us a continuance, even though Hurricane Harvey had flooded out the home, leaving the mom and her teenage daughter homeless and trying to find a place to live. We were ultimately able to get a small continuance, but it damaged our ability to do discovery on the husband's $10 million fraudulently created trust. Why? I just felt like loyalty should make me stay. Guess what, sports fans? Loyalty is what kept you in that marriage too long to begin with. Number 5, don't step over dollars to pick up pennies. Where in the settlement offer is the $20K he spent on that hunting trip? It's in the bottom line. The thing that is important to coach people on about their divorces is to remember that this is an outcome-oriented game. What matters is what the pot looks like at the end. It doesn't matter how you characterize the numbers as you go along, and it doesn't matter how you make the math work. What matters is when you get to the bottom line, is it enough money or is it not enough money? That's where it matters. So when you start fighting over insignificant issues, you're just spending money on your divorce for no apparent reason. That's what stepping over dollars to pick up pennies is. Fighting over line items neglects the bottom line, because usually we've added that money in somewhere else. And usually we've got something valued where we need to, or the husband has agreed to a higher value where we may have argued over it otherwise. Why do you want to fight over a $50,000 waste claim when we have the valuation of his business $200,000 higher than it probably is in real life? That's where you start running into problems. I had the situation in reverse, where we had a business interest valued on our side, where I represented the husband, and it was probably undervalued by about $400,000, but they simply hadn't paid enough attention to know that. The husband decided that he was upset about the fact that he thought there was a discrepancy of $8,000 in one of the line items, and before the settlement was done, refused to sign it because he wanted the discrepancy clarified, and he wanted that money to make sure that that was put back into his $8,000 into his column. Well, that caused the wife's lawyer to relook at the entire spreadsheet, and when they did, they relooked at every line item and realized they had probably undervalued that business, which became a significant issue. And all of this was done against my advice, and I told him not to do it. When they finally did it, they argued about the value. Guess what? Several $100,000 swing went back to the wife when they decided to relook at each line item themselves. It was all there. They just chose not to look at it until my client decided to make an issue of the $8,000. Don't step over dollars to pick up pennies. Number 6, don't suddenly contract narcissism in your divorce, aka pick your battles, aka don't sweat the little things. Look, among the myriad of problems associated with narcissism is the desire to win everything, every time. That's the narcissist way, right? I constantly hear in divorces, but he always gets his way. He always gets his way. Well, When we're focusing on he always gets his way, out goes the money on things that don't matter over and over and over again. Sun Tzu from The Art of War says, "He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight." That is the truest axiom for divorces probably ever. The fact is, that's the perennial fight that's leading to the divorce. He always wins. He always gets his way. I'm tired of it. I'm sick of it. I've had it. Well, that's why you're getting a divorce. Why do you want to perpetuate the cycle during the divorce? By continuing to fight the same fight. You're trying to break out of that pattern. By engaging in that fight, you're simply giving the narcissist what he wants. You're giving them the continuing fight, which is the very thing you're trying to stop. And when you do it, it's small monies that add up to larger monies, because it's 5,000 here, it's 10,000 here, it's 7,000 here. And remember this, when you're spending your money, he's spending his money. But guess what? It's both of your money. You're losing it and he's losing it. And you're both losing half of all of it. And over what? Fighting over the very pattern you're trying to break out of. Here's the thing when it comes to fighting that same fight over and over again. I had a case where a husband leased an apartment and the wife was just firmly convinced that he leased the apartment a month earlier than he did. What difference did it make? He started paying the rent on the same day. So what? They separated. He rented a place. What difference did it make if he signed it a month earlier? She just really was, he just has to say, he just has to tell us, and forced me to do discovery, third-party discovery from the leasing agents, everything, to find out if he leased the apartment a month earlier than he said he did. Why? Does it make you feel better? Okay, maybe. Put a price tag on that, though. How much does making you feel better cost? In that case, probably about $20K. And that was on our side, not counting the other side. So when you really want to know that piece of information, when you really want to fight over that little thing, because you just have to prove that you were right and he was wrong, ask yourself, how much is that worth to you? Number 7, don't covet the winning item. We all know what it is. My narcissistic spouse has this thing that they really want. They just have to have that, gotta have it. This is what I call the tale of the beach house and the loss of thousands of dollars. Husband wants the beach house. Wife really doesn't care. So she wants it. Why? Because he wants it. Okay. He took it off the market without prior approval. He wasn't allowed to do that. Problem? Yes. What was the solution we came up with? Okay, you're going to have to buy it. And you're going to have to buy it at fair market value, which basically was the price that he could have sold it at and had an offer to sell it at, but chose to take the item off without approval. Just became an issue. Just had to do damage because of it. Just had to prove that he couldn't do it, shouldn't have done it. It was wrong for him to do it. Okay, we got it. It was wrong. All right? But we got him to accept that item on his side of the column as a reparation at full value. What does that mean? Well, a $470,000 item with $350,000 of equity just moved onto that side of the column. They didn't have as much cash as they should have because it had been bad spending habits. So what does that mean, though? That means the bulk of the spendable cash has to move back onto her side, or significant chunks of it do, which was more important to her than apparently him getting the beach house. You want to fight over the beach house? Okay. You're going to end up giving him part of the cash. Then you're going to end up selling it, which may take too long to sell. And you may not get the value. And you're going to be waiting on that money until it sells. And you're going to be doing it at a really bad time to do it. But by coveting that winning item, it cost thousands and thousands of dollars of hearings, more litigation, valuations, market analysis, having to talk to the real estate agents. When ultimately she took my advice and said, fine, if we settle, you have to take it. Full value moves to his side. The bulk of the extra cash moves to her side, which is what she wanted in the first place. Am I saying simply just give it up? If it's the item, just give it up? No, I'm not necessarily saying just give it up. I am, but not without getting something for it. That is your negotiating item. Don't spend money litigating it. Just act like you're going to take it. Just act like you want it. Just act like it's at issue. When time comes at the very end, then you negotiate it away. Because let me tell you what, the narcissist is going to give you way more than he should in order to get that item, because that's the winning item that he wants. Use that as the bargaining chip to get more by giving him the win intentionally on the item you don't care about in the first place. Just wait till the right time to do it. Number 8. Do it with me. Public spankings cause death and destruction and lots of money. That's number 8. Really, what you're doing with public spankings is very simple. You're seeking validation from the court, which is not the place you're going to get validation. The fact is, the judges really don't want to hear it. Unless it's egregious, they just don't care. They want you to settle. They want you to try to get through the issues. They want you to try to resolve the issues. So when you go to them for little issues, they just don't care. And that's before you address the $10,000 it's going to cost you to draft the enforcement motion to make sure that it's legally enforceable when you file it. Then you have to serve them generally personally. Then you're going to have hearings on it. Then you're going to have to bring all the proof and the evidence that you need for those hearings, and for what end. Because we all know what that's all about. Public spankings are, what's the phrase? Holding him accountable. Nobody ever holds him accountable. When is he going to be held accountable? He's going to be held accountable at the end of the case when you settle it right. And he's going to be held accountable when you've got a lot of extra money in your checkbook because you didn't waste it on the little things. But let's assume you just can't do it, and you just got to get that validation from the court. You have to have that public spanking. You have to hold him accountable. And let's say you're successful doing it. You want to know what you've accomplished? You've just made the narcissist more mad. And now they're going to fight you over every issue. And then they're going to go for the setups. And then they're going to try to make things look certain ways and do certain things to try to build their little cases so that they can hold you accountable and publicly spank you for even things that you didn't do. What you've done is you've taken a small battle and turn it into a much larger war. That's what turns a 1.5-year divorce into a 2.5-year divorce. That's what takes a $200,000 bill and makes it a $500,000 bill, because the narcissist doesn't care how much of their money they spend in order to beat you. That becomes more important to them than the money did. My suggestion is, a divorce is an end result game. What matters to you is getting out of it. What matters to you is not prolonging the fight. It's getting out of that fight. It's breaking that pattern, and it's doing it with as many resources as you can at the end of the case. When you're spending money, he's spending money, and both of you are spending y'all's money. It's half yours and it's half his. So when he decides he wants to spend twice as much money to beat you, that's half your money too. Number 9. You can't beat the psychosis. Don't psychoanalyze. Worst decision ever. You're not in marital counseling. You're in a divorce. You're not trying to save the relationship. It doesn't matter why he's doing X or Y or Z. It doesn't matter why his narcissism won't allow him to do this and that. Work around it, not through it. The rationale doesn't make a difference. 50% of the estate is 50% of the estate. Period. That is a math equation. The amount of money you end up with, a math equation. His motivations for saying this or doing that are no longer relevant. Big tip. A divorce is a business transaction. It is a business transaction. In the end of the day, you're maximizing your money. You're maximizing the parent-child efforts or the parent-child relationship to get what you want in all things. It is a negotiated transaction. It is no longer about understanding their motivations. Another tip. Here's his motivation. He's a narcissist. He wants to beat you. Got it. He'll do it at all costs. Got it. Don't fight that fight. Psychoanalyzing it does nothing but keep your head in that game. And it keeps your head in that space. So, let me save you the time. Your soon-to-be ex wants to win. That's it. He or she doesn't even know what they're trying to win. They just want to win. They don't even know what the win is. If you want to understand why this is a bad idea, see items 1 through 8. All right, here we are. The big almost finish. Number 10. Don't give up the checkbook. Let me say it again. Don't give up the checkbook. Okay, so what do we mean by don't give up the checkbook? A tale of two women, Susan versus Amy. They had the same lawyer. I took over both cases from that lawyer. One 2.5 years in, one 2 3/4 years in. Both with totally different tales. Susan says, I can't ever get him to call me back. He's pawning me off to a 5th-year associate, who, by the way, happens to be his girlfriend that he started sleeping with, which broke up both of their marriages. But she's got a 5th-year lawyer. He has a 5th-year lawyer managing this estate now and managing this complicated divorce. Amy is getting the full attention of the lawyer, both of whom, by the way, had almost $1 million bills in their divorce. Yes, $1 million worth of fees. What is the difference between the two? Why did Susan get punted to the associate and not get the attention of the lawyer, and Amy did? Well, simple. In Amy's situation, she required the partition of funds. So, as the case was going on, they would partition funds out of the estate. Those funds would go into her checkbook. Lawyer had to bill her. She had to approve the bills. She had to write the check. Susan didn't want to mess with that. So she allowed the lawyer to get a deal with the opposing lawyer for the husband to pay the bills directly. Well, guess what? Her lawyer is going to her husband to get his bills paid, where in Amy's situation, he had to come to his own client to get the bills paid. End result, catastrophically different experiences between the two. Not only should you never give up the checkbook, but never allow your clients to ever have an agreement that allows anybody to approve the bills except for you. The bills have to come through you before they can get paid, no matter what the situation is. If money's going to be partitioned, if interim fees are going to be awarded, you demand that those interim fees be put into your checkbook, all the difference in the world. If I, as a lawyer, am not accountable to my own client for my billing, why do I feel compelled to do the best service for that client who's not approving my bills, who doesn't write my paychecks when it's time for me to get paid on that case? You'll see the results over and over and over again. It's unfortunate, it's shameful that that's an issue, but it is the most critical mistake. So that's it. That's 1 through 10, but I have a bonus round for you. Bonus round. Got to have some fun during this. Here you go. 2 little tips just to tack on to the end of this to help make things a little bit better in what is an otherwise really, really crappy situation for your clients. Always advise them of these 2 things to remember. Number 1, bonus round 1, smile and make sure everybody likes you. When you act in a way that makes people not like you, it negatively impacts you, whether it's your lawyer, whether it's the judge, whether it's the opposing side, whatever. Use whatever axiom you want or whatever colloquial expression you want. The fact of the matter is, when people like you, they tend to believe you, and they tend to disbelieve the narcissistic husband or the narcissistic wife who clearly acts like it. When you're nice and you smile, you can still be destructive. Gave a friend of mine a shirt one time many years ago that used to work for me, nice kid, said, I put the cute in execute. Smile, you'll get what you want. And one of the best pieces of advice I can give you, remember this. Always make sure your clients remember, change represents opportunity. This is your chance to change your life. This is your client's chance to change your life. So while they're going through this horrible thing, remember always there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Because when that divorce is over, you have the opportunity to rebuild your life the way you want to. And you have the ability to do it free of all of the problems that you've had all along. Well, there you have it. I'm Jeff Diamond, a trial lawyer and divorce lawyer, and you have been watching A Staggering Tale of Heartbreaking Unintended Consequences, aka The Tyranny of Small Decisions, aka 10 Small Mistakes that can lead to much larger problems in your divorce. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed it.